All right, guys, we'll go ahead and get started. Hopefully this one makes it through. So welcome to TLA Prep on the 28th of September. And I'm excited about today's leadership exercise because it's all about emotional intelligence. And the reason why I'm excited to talk about emotional intelligence, or EQ, is it's something that that anybody can learn. Doesn't matter what schooling you get, because they don't really talk about this in most schooling. And also it's something that is independent of your natural IQ. A lot of times when you're when you're doing your IQ, there ends up being a number that comes out that's really based on just your hereditary intelligence, and that's not something that really you can control. Your IQ is something you could develop over time. You can read certain books, you can do certain things, but it doesn't actually help you to really study it much. It's very hard to move your IQ up very much. But your emotional intelligence is definitely something that you can learn to develop and strengthen. And so if you're taking notes, I want to talk a little bit about this. And so how to see if your emotional intelligence is low. Here's some key questions you can ask yourself to find if your emotional intelligence is low. Do you have radical swings of emotions, right? Are you prompt to highs and to lows all the time? That's something that you can tell is your emotional intelligence is low. Do you find yourself getting angry for things that really don't matter that much? Do you find yourself crying for things that really, honestly, is not that big a deal? If you have that, it means your emotional intelligence is low. It means it's something you need to work on. Because emotional intelligence is something that is a super big indicator of whether or not you're going to be successful. It also is one of the top traits of CEOs, that they have high EQ. When you have a high EQ, it allows you to really understand and to work with people. It allows you to connect with them on deeper levels. It allows you to be the best version of yourself. And and guys, and I want you to write down this sentence, and beside it, I want you to write how accurate that is for you. Okay. And then we're going to write down a few questions as we go through this today. But the first question that I want you to write down is this statement. It's not a question; it's really a statement. But the statement is this: how I feel informs how I will perform. So, how I feel informs how I will perform. Do any of you feel, as you're writing that down, that connects with you in some way, shape, or form? So, how I feel informs how I perform. I want you to take a minute or so and write an example of where you were performing at a peak state in the business because of what you did or because of how you were feeling outside of the business. And I want you to write down an example. This would be fun to share at some point after TLA to get some today. So write down an example of when you performed at a peak state in the business because of how you felt going in. Okay, so write that down. Now, below that, and it can be one sentence, right? It could be, Thursday, right? Maybe Thursday you had an amazing day, you had a great interview, or you ran a great day one of training, right? Or maybe you had a big sales day or something like that because you felt amazing going into the day. Okay. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to write down an example of when you did not perform at your peak state in the business. If you're in class, maybe you did not do well in a class or a test because of how you felt going in. It was completely not related. Okay. I'll give you just kind of a quick a quick example. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a high-level manager in the business, and he was telling me about a time, or one time he blew up at his coworkers in his office because of a fight he and his wife were having. It's like he just went in and, like, the manager said something, one of his assistants said something. It really wasn't even like that big a deal, but because he was already in a bad mood, because of an argument he had with his wife, it like lashed out at the assistant manager. I did this a few weeks ago to a few people here in the pilot that were late for a meeting because I was frustrated with our video not working well, So it was like how I felt based on the video not producing. I lashed out. Now, I thought I was justified in lashing out. I probably just went more than the normal, right? It was like where, I should have gotten on to these people for being late. However, I probably took it to the next level because of the fact that the video feed was screwing up. So that's a great thing to be thinking about, because see, how oftentimes if you don't have your emotions in check, you start doing things. We talked about last week at Local Prep that when emotions are high, logic is low, right? You've heard me say this before. It's funny. I went to a church service on Sunday, and the entire service, right? The entire service was about emotional intelligence. It was framed in a different way. It was framed through the context of a movie, one of those animated films or whatever, a Disney film. But it was framed through that film, and how the whole concept behind it was that your emotions sometimes hijack your logic, and you don't perform at your best state, and you got to develop a strong emotional intelligence or strong base. And they also did it based on living it like Jesus, right? Was like, hey, Jesus had very strong emotional intelligence, is basically the big takeaway from it. And if you live more like him, you'll be stronger in your emotional intelligence and be able to develop it. It's funny. I was talking to a guy in our business named Brett Wiggins. Brett is he leads a church service and a church worship group on Sundays. And when he was at PLS, that's exactly what he talked about. He talked about trying to live more like Jesus, and being a great supporter and developer and believer of people, and then also being honest with where he was at and teaching people how to think, right? Being less judgmental, and to not hold grudges against people and stuff like that. And a lot of it was just, as he was talking, it was the same concept, right? It was just being emotionally aware of where you're at. So if that's the case, I want you to think of your current emotional state. Okay, what is your current emotional state right now? Hopefully you guys have been doing this exercise. If you're joining in on the call, the video, if you're there here in the pilot, have you guys been setting the alarms? Have you actually been writing them down? I hope so. It's one of those things, guys. It's a great exercise to do. If you've got significant others, I recommend you do that. For example, we've got Mullins and Sarah here, who I know have significant others. Are they? I would ask, hey, this is something I'm doing for work, and I think it'd be a great exercise for you to do too, and just see what their feedback is. It's funny because I would imagine that most females would probably take it as, oh, that's a great thing. I'd love to do that, because it's considered okay to be in touch with your emotions if you're a female, and if you're a dude, right? If you're dating, Walker or whoever, right? The feeling is probably like, why the hell would I care about emotions, right? But I think it's still a fun way to get people to kind of think about themselves, because think about it, when if we would all agree, and we asked this question earlier, or made the statement earlier, how I feel is how I perform. Would you agree that if you could get yourself feeling great, that in turn will also help you to perform better consistently? If you could put yourself in that position of feeling good, or feeling okay, or feeling positive, or feeling happy consistently, well, then you're going to perform better at your job. You're going to perform better in school. You're going to perform better everywhere, right? I mean, you're just going to be better. So it's funny because I think we all understand that intuitively, right? We all understand, hey, if I'm feeling good, I'm going to perform better. People that, Al D, our president and CEO, is famous for saying, people that feel good do good, right? And it's a very kind of simplistic, way of looking at life, but it is accurate, right? If you feel good, you'll do good. My buddy, I got a chance yesterday to golf with a friend of mine, Vinny, and he's the guy that no matter what makes people feel beautiful, right? That's kind of his deal. He's like, hey, always make people feel good. We were talking about about the debates and stuff yesterday on the course, and it just kind of went right back to that thing. It's like, life is just a lot easier if you make people feel good about being who they are and accepting who they are, coming to terms with it, they're going to perform better, blah, 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 right? So we were talking about that. And so I think we all understand that intuitively. Yeah, if I feel good, I'll do better, I'll perform better, I'll do the right work. However, why do we not put ourselves in that position more often? Well, I think a lot of times it's because of that very simple fact that we don't really know that we're not feeling good until it's too late, right? Because the difference between being at 100% positive, happy, and being at 90% is not that much different. The difference between being at 90% versus 80% is not that much different. The difference between being at 70% and 80% is not that much different. And so what ends up happening is we end up going from being at 100% to 70%, or 100% to 50%, sometimes worse, but it's gradual. It's not like, okay, 1 week. I mean, it's not like, hey, I'm at 100%. Yesterday, I found out that blank passed away. Holy shit, that's a massive, drastic. Okay, I'm not feeling well, right? Like, I know for me, like, I don't care how amazing my life is. I don't care how amazing, like how beautiful my life is. Like, I could have the most amazing. I'm talking, we could drop like 40 grand in a day in new business. Tyson, something happens to him, he dies, right? Dude, you can better believe I'm going to be a wreck that next day, right? Probably the next year. No, I'm kidding. It'll be a long time though. I mean, this ain't going to be something you just get over, right? There are certain things that you can just get over. Losing Tyson would not be one of them for me, right? So that's going to mess me up. However, most of life is not that drastic, right? There's people that make little things be drastic. Like, I'll give you an example. A friend of mine that's, close to me lost their friend, all right, so it was their mom's brother. So I guess their uncle, right? Passed away. That sucks, right? But it does not crush me. However, I know some people that anybody around them has anything happen to them, they immediately make it their problem. You guys know people like that? It's like if anything happens to anybody, it's like, oh my gosh, I want to be right there in the mix. And so then it becomes something severe, something serious, something drastic, something painful. But for most things, it's not like that in life. The difference between somebody who's doing amazing and the difference between somebody who's feeling miserable, it's usually gradual and they don't even realize it. The best way I could describe it is it would be like how your teeth would look if you just didn't brush your teeth ever. At first, it's not going to be that bad, right? Anybody in here, you don't have to raise your hands, I guess, if you don't want to. You don't even have to nod if you don't want to acknowledge it. Anybody ever go a day without brushing their teeth? Okay. You don't want to admit it, probably, right? But, you go a day and be okay, right? You rinse out your mouth with some mouthwash. Maybe you just like drink a lot of water, eat a banana, eat an apple, something like that, and kind of clean up your mouth. You can get away with it, chew some gum, right? You can go a day, maybe two, but eventually it's going to start to really wear on you, right? And if you're looking in the mirror, if you don't brush your teeth for an extended period of time, they're going to start rotting out, and you're going to really notice it. That's how people's emotional intelligence is. That's what happens to people's emotions. What happens is it's a gradual thing that if you look at it months later becomes a drastic difference. If you're not constantly checking your emotions and analyzing, hey, where am I at right now? How do I feel in this moment in time? If you're not asking yourself that question, it could end up wearing out on you. You don't even know why. So the reason I want to talk to you about is the concept of emotional hygiene. Okay, and so I want you to write that down. Emotional hygiene. What is emotional hygiene? Okay, emotional hygiene is it's no different than really brushing your teeth, except for your internal well-being. You know, and so here's a couple of questions you can ask yourself when you're trying to direct your emotional hygiene to be in a better place. Okay. Number one is, what do I need to do to rejuvenate myself? Okay. So number one, all right, so I guess start at the very beginning. So number one, how do I feel? This is emotion. This is kind of your emotional hygiene, right? So how do I feel? How do I want to feel? How do I bridge the gap between how I feel and how I want to feel? So how do I feel? How do I want to feel? How do I bridge that gap? Or what do I need to bridge that gap? For most people, that involves a rejuvenation of some sort, either spiritually, emotionally, physically, or relationship-wise, or health, right? I mean, physical and health, kind of the same thing. We'll lump that into one. So spiritual, emotional, physically, or relationship-wise. I mean, you could say financially, but the reality is when you were little and you're a kid, like, you're happier than shit when you're a little kid and you didn't have any money, right? I mean, I was reflecting back on that. I was in Philadelphia, and I was in an Uber to the hotel, and these three little punk kids riding their bicycles, like whipping, through the through the streets of Philly, right down downtown Philly, not the best area of town, right? But they're just whipping their bikes, right? And I looked at the Uber driver. I said, "Man, those kids got the life. They don't even realize everything that's about to happen over the course of their next 50, 70, 100 years, whatever they live longer, right?" But you're just happy. You don't need happiness is a bike and some free time, right? Where you don't have to do homework. That's all happiness consists of when you're little, right? So those are some things that it's basically like, let's say, brushing your teeth, smelling your armpits, right? Just making sure you're taken care of emotionally wise with your hygiene. So emotional hygiene is basically just making sure that spiritually, emotionally, physically, and relationship wise, you're doing okay. Okay? And I will say that in today's society, personal integrity and striving to be the best version of yourself has never been more important. Okay? It's never been more important. Okay? The reason it's never more important, I mean, you look at the debate that just happened. The two biggest things that people were ripping about was the emails on Clinton's part, right? And the tax returns on Trump's part. And in both cases, those individuals are ashamed of something. Don't know what, but there's something there that they don't feel good about. And I'll be honest, if they just, again, had personal integrity and strove to be the best versions of themselves, they would have had no problems releasing all that information. Whatever Hillary's got in there, I mean, here's the thing, Hillary could not want to send out those emails because it's something as simple as her gossiping about another political head of state. Be like, yeah, you know, do you see how big that forehead was on Prime Minister such and such wife, right? Or whatever. I mean, it could have been something as simple as that could ruin public relations with that country, right? But, you know, she probably knew that's not the best version of herself if she said something like that. It could be something a lot more devious. Depending on who you ask, it's something petty, it's something very devious, right? It could be something like she's got an ongoing affair with somebody, right? Not that Bill would have any room to talk, but hey, it is what it is, right? With Trump, right? The same thing. You know, Hillary even asked it, right? There's only a couple reasons why he wouldn't release his returns. Either number one, he's lying. It basically is he's lying, right? It's both of them are calling each other liars. And in her case, she's saying he's either lying about how much money he really made, because it's not as much as he says he makes, or he's lying on his tax returns because he's not paying nearly what he should be paying. Or he's lying about how much charitable donations he actually gives, because he's really not that charitable, right? Or something in that wavelength, right? And so personal integrity is so critical, and so there's daily questions that you can ask yourself to kind of just keep that gap bridged, okay? You know, and understanding that you are the most important person you have to meet with every day. You know, so whether you're a student, whether you're a manager, whether you're the owner, whether you're a district manager, division manager, CEO of a company, whether you're the mom or dad, husband or wife, whoever you are in your relationship, personal, professional, the most important person you got to meet with on a daily basis is yourself. Because if you're not in a good place, then you're not going to be the best version of yourself in those relationships and interactions and meetings that you have. And if you go into those processes and meetings, then you're gonna struggle. You're gonna be in pain, you know. And so one of the questions that we really talked about at Presidential Leadership Summit, and then I'm talking to some of your district managers about, is how do you make sure that you're in an optimal kind of peak state? How do you do that emotional hygiene to make sure that you're doing well? Right? So you got to ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? How do I want to feel? Right? What do I need to do to rejuvenate myself? And then you got spiritually, emotionally, physically, and then relationship wise. So what do I need to do to rejuvenate myself in those ways, shapes, or forms, right? So part of the reason why I asked you guys to write down a favorite things list, and you guys still have your favorite things list, right? Part of the reason why that favorite things list works is because if you catch yourself being down in any of those areas, you quickly go to those favorite things list, and then you quickly can change it. Like, I know for me, you know, I know that one of my favorite things is just calling Jeff Gamboa or calling Amar. And I know if I call Amar, I'm going to start laughing about something. If I call Jeff, I'm going to start laughing about something. I know I can always call those two people and I'm going to start laughing. I know that if I get a phone call, sometimes I can't call Larry because he's impossible to freaking pick up his phone sometimes. And he'll call me 10 times when he needs to talk to me. So, you know, it works well. Every time I talk to him, I start cracking up. But those are some of my favorite things. It's like, I know for me, you know, that if I live one of the things, or I do some of the things on my favorite things list, it can immediately change my mood. So, but you got to ask yourself those first questions first to make sure that you connect with where you are. Okay, that concept of setting up 3 alarms in your schedule, setting up 3 alarms in your schedule to say, hey, what is my current emotional state? Okay. Okay, when you have that, and you can just look at those alarms, what that ends up doing for you, okay, is if it's not where it needs to be, you can change it. Sometimes it means you got to go to one of your favorite things. Go right there, right then, right? Sometimes it means that you just need to take a breather. Like I know there's been certain times for me if I say, hey, what's my current emotional state? And I realize my anger is high. I'm like, uh-oh. And then I'll immediately check it. Or if like I'm sad for no reason at all, it's like, okay, let me change that. Okay. But so setting those alarms is key. But sometimes you got to look back before you can even start to feel like, why was I feeling that way? Oh, how was I feeling? So, so emotional hygiene is critical. When you perform at your best, when you're emotionally in a great place, your business will be in a great place. I speak from personal example here on this. Last week, this year, we were up 107% as a division. Okay? Last week, last year, I was not in a great emotional state, personally. And it affected my business. It affected it for a long time before that, too. But see, here's the deal. When you get yourself in the right place, man, amazing things happen. Now, what's not okay is to say, oh, I'm not in the right place. I need to go run. I need to go cut out all the positive things that are good, because that's the natural instinct, right? It's like when you're not in a great place mentally, you say to yourself, oh, man, I don't have time. I got to take time for myself. Life keeps happening. That's the reality, right? You got to keep living. So can you build things in? And then also, guys, be honest with yourself. See, that emotional vulnerability to yourself is important because nobody's superhuman. Nobody is. There's a reason why those characters on movies are so exciting because it's the concept of, man, could that be possible? But it just isn't. Here's another thought for you. When it comes to building lasting relationships, right? You got to be vulnerable. You have to be vulnerable. You got to have that trust. Nobody's superhuman there either. Here's a quick thought for you. How many superheroes do you know that are married? None. Who? You really had to think deep there, right? You had to go deep to get to Mr. Incredible, right? The Incredibles are a superhero family, right? That fights crime together as a family. Yeah, that didn't really happen. All right. Think about it, right? Iron Man, single. Batman, single. Superman, single. Deadpool, single. Yeah.
Not married.
Not married. James Bond, single. He is super. But the point I'm making, guys, is that it's not realistic. Most people would not really truly want to be at that level. And so if you want to, and so in order to actually have long lasting strong relationship, you got to be vulnerable. You got to be okay with it. You got to be able to play hurt and being able to say, you know what, I'm okay. And if you're able to be honest and authentic and open with yourself, it works. If you're training for a marathon, right? You know that you can't just simply run all the time. If you got to listen to your body. If things are physically hurting, you got to leave it alone. Like I'm in a place right now where, for whatever reason, I've got this kink in my shoulder where I can't do a pull-up. Really weird. I was doing one arm rows today with 95 pounds in each arm. That should be no problem to be able to do a pull-up. That'd be a joke. Okay. I get right here and it catches and I get shooting pain all the way through my shoulder. So you got to listen to it. If I kept trying to fight through that, there's no telling what would end up happening. I can maybe tear something, maybe dislocate something. I don't know. You gotta listen to yourself and you gotta work through it. And another good thing that you can do for yourself is to make sure that you're building it into some sort of ritual where you're writing this information down. If you're interested in exploring this concept even more of emotional intelligence, um, I could talk more one-on-one on it. There's there's a website, okay, that's actually EQ. It's called EQ, but in the EQ website, it actually discusses this. And the EQ website, I believe, is just simply that. Let's see here, EQ book. Oh, here we are. So the EQ test. It is free. It's a quiz, and you can just take it. It's a very simple one. Doesn't take very much to listen to take it. And there is a book that's actually, it's called Emotional Intelligence 2.0, that talks about these concepts of being on point, your emotions. Because when you can be on point with your emotions, when you can have everything in the right place, it allows you to really deal with people the right way, have in-depth, intelligent conversations without things getting too crazy, emotional, and out of hand. And that's a big thing. It helps with self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, as well as relationship management. Right? And that is on actually, I believe it's on talentsmart.com. And there's a passcode and emotional intelligence book you can read, but I think the book itself is like $8-9 to get it, but it's pretty good. And there's also free ones there too that you can take. So cool. Well, guys, I want to dig in now to some business-related, business-specific, topics. Okay, we talked about the group interview at management prep. I want to now dig into the post interview as it relates to our interview itself. And it's a very simple interview script at the end. The whole idea is that you want to, as you're doing the post interview, I have found that how somebody leaves the interview really helps to determine your show. I think more important than the actual group interview itself is making sure that people are posted the right way. I think the reason that people show to training, before we say this, is because they understand the job and they think they can do it. And then number two, they like the recruiter and they want to be more like them or want to work with them. Okay. So those are two reasons why people show. The two reasons why people don't show is lack of control or not being on the program. Okay, so if you're not on the program, if you're not on the interview itself, or you're lacking control of the room, those are two things that really hurt your show to training. So if you want to drive it up, make sure that you're that you're really explaining the job the right way and being the leader yourself. So onboarding people, though, is really important, and that goes in with control and also makes them feel good about getting the job. So let's talk about this post interview for a second. If you pull it up, I know you guys have got it. Probably many of you have run it. If you've got it on Google Drive, if you need it. But the post interview itself is designed to give somebody a little bit of a push away where they feel like they've had to earn the job. It's not being just handed to them. If anybody's just handed a job, they don't really feel special. They don't really feel good. So it's important that you make sure that you give them a little bit of a push away, and then more importantly, give them a sincere and genuine reason for why you're accepting them, because that genuine and sincere reason for why you're accepting them will really help you to drive home the, hey, I understand the job and I think I'd be good at it. Why I think I'd be good at it a lot of times comes from us giving them the reason why they'd be good at it. Sometimes we see their success before they even see their success. So let's talk about how you do the post interviews. So when you grab a seat, you look at their application acceptance sheet as you're walking in to the room. As you grab a seat, you just simply ask them, hey, what was your overall reaction to the company? Okay, or what was your overall reaction to the company? Or hey, after seeing the interview, what's your overall reaction to the company? Okay? And what you're looking for there is something pretty simple. Hey, it's a great job. Or, hey, it's a good company. Hey, it really impressed me. Wow, it's a lot bigger than I was expecting. Whatever else, they say. What you don't want to hear is, oh, I think you did a great presentation, right? Now what that group interview was to them was a sales pitch for the company, and that's not good. That's not what you're looking for. Okay. So the next question is, hey, did I answer all your questions? Was it all pretty clear? And when you use that question, or when you say that question, use the vector nod. And the reason right there is you don't want to say, hey, do you have any questions? That could be that could open up Pandora's box for anything, right? How old are you? How long are you in the company? What do you like about working here? Which, by the way, are great questions. I wouldn't not like that. But what you don't have time for is you don't have time for 21 questions with every applicant that you interview. So it's just simply, hey, did I answer all your questions? Was it all pretty clear? Okay. You kind of look at them, just nod, right? So then you review their answers real quickly, just making sure they checked everything the way it needs to be. Hopefully, you've already looked to make sure they checked yes as the last yes/no question. So then you say, yeah, you checked if accepted that vector could benefit your future. How so? Okay, and so the reason that question is important is that question allows them to sell themselves on why it's a good job for them. Okay, so guys, don't just simply say, don't just skip that part. And more importantly, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for them to come up with a genuine reason why this is going to help them be a better person, or why this is going to help them in their future job. Okay. So then, and you say, and you do feel if accepted, that's something you could excel at. Why is that, or how so? And so, so again, you're just kind of eliciting why they'd be good at it. Then the next question, most important, is kind of the little push away, as well as allowing them to sell you on them. Right? So this is where they need to do that kind of sales pitch for themselves. Says, well, as you saw, there are a lot of people applying with us today. So why do you feel like you should be selected? Or why do you feel like you should be accepted? And then that right there is where you want to kind of allow them to have more of an answer. Okay. The why do you feel like this is something that can benefit your future does not need to be a lengthy answer. Okay. This one should be kind of a sentence or two, or a couple sentence answer. If somebody gives kind of a lame answer and they're really confident, or you could tell that they're not shy and nervous, right? If somebody's shy and nervous and they give a lame answer, if you were to say anything else you care to add, that could cause them to crap their pants. So why do you think you should be accepted? If you're just like, okay, anything else you'd like to add? They may be like, oh shit. And they're going to stutter, stumble, trip, right? All the things that is not going to make them feel really good there as that. Now, if somebody is really confident or cocky and they're in the interview, and if you say, hey, well, as you saw, there's a lot of people applying with us, why do you feel like you should be selected, or why do you think you should be accepted? And they kind of like, well, I just think that I'm good with people. It's like, okay, anything else you care to add? In that case, that would cause them to have to really dig in a little bit more, right? So then after they said, you just read it, right? Well, Michael, like I said before, I do make most of my decisions in the second interview. I ask these questions to solidify my decision. The toughest part of my job is that I'm not able to accept everybody that applies with us. So I do want to thank you, in your case, for applying. In your case, and then you give them a couple reasons why you're accepting them. Okay. And so you just let it set in for a second there. There's a slight pause, right? So it's like, toughest part of my job is I can't accept everybody that works with us. So I do want to thank you for applying today. In your case, I also saw boom, 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 boom. Presented yourself well. You seem like a hard worker. And guys, what I always try to do when I'm personally interviewing somebody is I look for something that it is about them in general, something that I find from their resume usually, or from their application, that would cause them to be a good fit. Maybe I saw they're an athlete. Maybe I saw they had a high GPA. So they care about, they take pride in their grades, and they take pride in their schoolwork, and they take pride in things they do. And then I also look for something that I saw in the interview itself. Something from the application, something from the group interview. So it shows that I'm not just simply looking at their past experience, but also how they performed in that group interview. Okay. So then after you, give a genuine reason for accepting them, okay, you say, hey, I know that if I appreciate these qualities, my customers and my staff would appreciate them as well. And so given these things, I really feel after a training, you could do really well with us. So welcome to team, congrats. Okay, and then you smile, shake their hand. And again, when you offer the handshake, it's just, you put it out, just a little bit. You don't go all the way across the table, shake their hand. And you don't nosedive down. That'd be weird and creepy. Instead, just simply, okay, now again, if you've got really short hands, you're gonna need to lean a little bit further, right? Extend your arm, but if you've got, just normal arms, right? Or the desk is not super long, right? Then you just kind of have them come to you. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay, so yeah, exactly. All right. So then, after you do that, this is the important part. So hey, now that we just scheduled you for training, I know you said that you wanted to start right away. Well, I'd love to get you in here earlier. The earliest I can get you in here is Thursday. Okay. And again, guys, this is something that does change depending on when you're running your interviews. This is a big deal. So this is something you may want to notate on your post or just make note of when you're interviewing. If you're interviewing somebody on, basically Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, okay, you could really get away with saying, hey, well, I'd love to get you here as soon as possible. Earliest I can get you in here is going to be Thursday. That sounds good. Doesn't seem too soon. Doesn't feel forced, right? If you're interviewing somebody on a Wednesday, putting them into Thursday, that may seem really sudden. It's like, hey, well, we got the job now. Let's get you training. Training starts tomorrow. You may be like, oh gosh, especially if they're high banker, right? See, if somebody's high builder, a lot of times it's like, got the job, let's do it. If somebody's high merchant, they're just so happy and lovey. They're like, hell yeah, let's go. I'm excited. Innovators, high bankers, they tend to be more conserving, right? So for them, they especially need this kind of assurance there. So if you interview on Tuesday, especially if you're interviewing on a Wednesday, you simply say, hey, and while I'd love to get you in here, and you simply say this. You say, instead of saying, oh, I'd love to get you here as soon as possible, the earliest I can get you here is Thursday, you say this. I know you said you wanted to start as soon as possible. So rather than making you wait for a week or two, let's go ahead and get you here tomorrow. How's that sound? And now all of a sudden, they don't want to miss out on that next stage training as opposed to feeling forced into it. Does that make sense? That's a big distinction there. If you're interviewing on a Thursday, same thing. I know you said you want to get started as soon as possible. Well, rather than make you wait a week or two to get started, why don't we go ahead and get you in here this afternoon? How's that sound? Boom. So now they're feeling good. Now, hopefully you've kind of covered this a little bit in the pre-interview anyway, but you just reassure them there at the end in the post. That's why we're going to do it. Okay. Upon doing that, the next step is just after you get them scheduled for training, you make sure you put in the times. You put in the times of training. You get down on the office number. You get down all that. You figure out. You build up who's running training. It's really important that you build up the trainer. Right? Yeah. If you don't build up the trainer, guys, that's a problem. Okay. You want to build up the trainer big time because that helps them out. That helps me if I'm the one training. It certainly helps. Your district managers. Now, if you're the one running training, I don't think that you need to. I really don't think you need to build yourself up. That seems a little much. So, like, hey, the person training you is Trey. He's awesome. I think you're gonna love him. Oh, I'm Trey. That's right. It seems a little weird. Okay, so just eliminate that. Okay. Really important though that you're building up the trainer, and if it's not you. Okay. The next thing though is setting up, and this is big, especially if you're in an office that's on the that's on the new 2-day training program. Okay, the reason why this is important is just make sure that people are showing up the right way. Okay? And so this is what's called the interview brainstorm list. Okay. So, so this is something you're probably going to want to write down. Certainly have it where you can communicate it, because especially for you new recruiters, this could be a nuance that hurts your show without you realizing it. Right? And so all you say, hey, by the way, okay, so this is key. Right? And so, hey, by the way, guys, or hey, by the way, Michael, I'm sure you've already started to think about some people that you could practice with. Well, as you remember, when you're new, you practice with people that you know to get comfortable. And so on the back of your acceptance letter is room to make a list of people you can practice with. As I said, the interview, the amount of practice moments varies per rep. How many do you think you can come up with? You ask that question first. Yep. Okay. So hey, Michael, as I mentioned in the interview, hey, Michael, I know I mentioned this in the interview. You probably have already started thinking of some people you could practice with. So on the back of your acceptance letter is room to make a list of people you can practice with. As I said in the interview, the amount of practice varies among the reps. How many do you think you could come up with? Okay. Right. And so whatever they come up with, okay, so they throw out like, I don't know, maybe like 15, maybe they're like, man, I know a lot of people, right? So you get different answers there, but you want to kind of base it on what they're saying. Because if they come in with, I can think of like 5, well, that's pretty lame, right? But you don't want to tell that person, hey, I would shoot for 40 if they're thinking 5 is a lot. Right? So you kind of, but here's what you say, okay, well, cool. We'd like people to have at least 10. We'd like people to have a minimum of 10. Our top reps, they fill out the sheet and have 30 or more. And if you want to throw in a personal thing, like, hey, by the way, I remember for me, I worked really hard and I actually got to 50 before training, and it really helped me out. Okay. So we'd like to have a minimum of 10. Our top reps generally fill up the whole sheet and come in with 30 or more. Now, if you're not the one training, say, hey, if you really want to be impressive, right, to the manager, come in with 30 or more. I know me personally, I came in with over 50 because I really wanted to get off to a fast start, right? Or whatever you want to say there for that. If you didn't come in with 50, you could give an example of somebody that came in with more than 50. You can do whatever, but you just you're building up their expectancy a little bit. For most of you guys, you probably had a big brainstorm list by the time you got through that first day of training of people you could practice with. Okay. And so then you tell them, hey, by the way, just, we're not going to collect this. And by the way, we're not going to collect this just for you to practice with. And we'll just be kind of reviewing it on the first day of training. Is that cool? Perfect. Now, as you go down, you go to the PR thing. You go to their PR talk or their PR list, okay? You say, and also one more quick thing. I see that you recommended some of your people who would do well with the position. I just wanted you to make sure it was okay for us to give them a call. Well, I can't promise anybody a position. If they're anything like you, I'd like to give them a chance at an interview. So is it all right for us to reach out to? Is there anybody you don't want us to reach out to? Okay, excellent. Cool. Awesome. It was nice meeting with you today. Look forward to having you in training. Have a great day. And then there's one more little thing. If they're not coming out of the office that you're meeting with and going out. Okay, see here in this In this office, it's okay, but in some offices, you have to walk back through the group interview room to leave the office, okay? And so if that's the case, you may want to have them put all their materials away. And this also helps if you've got a big group interview and you want to increase the feel of importance, right? If you want to increase the feel of the selectivity that we have, you just simply say, and by the way, if you could do me a favor, just put that sheet away for now. As I mentioned earlier, I can't work with everybody and wouldn't want there to be any hard feelings. Okay? Right. You know, and then that is kind of like that last little, ooh, yeah, that's kind of cool, right? So if you've got a big group interview, like more than just one or two people, it's like, hey, by the way, one more thing, Michael, as I mentioned, I can't work with everybody. So you could do me a favor and maybe fold that up, put it away. I wouldn't want there to be any hard feelings from anybody. Right. So, good time. So guys, that's some of the things I've got for you on today's leadership topic. The last thing that I'm just going to have you guys, jot down. This is a quick text message that you could share with your representatives. Also, use yourself in order to help build the team with quality people. And it's the concept of the Text 3 program. Okay, the Text 3 program is a simple program that's being used across the Southwest region right now. And the whole idea is that every time somebody comes into a team meeting, you have them send out 3 text messages to some of the people that they recommended on their initial names list. And here's the text message. You can just type it in your phone real quick. If somebody here in the pilot could type it in and post it in the pilot staff thing, that'd be great too. But here's what you want to text. So it's, hey, blank, are you working right now or have a job lined up for the fall and winter? Just curious because I got this new job and we have some openings. I think you'd be a really good fit. Is it okay if my manager gives you a call to give you better details? Simple. All right, so hey, blank, are you working right now or have a job lined up for the fall and winter? Just curious, I got this new job. It's awesome. We have some openings. I think you'd be a good fit. Is it okay if my manager gives you a call with more details? It's a simple text message that they could send. Utilize this to help you out, help out your new representatives if they're trying to get PR credit. As a reminder for everybody divisionally, this is the last week for the Charleston trip contest. It is a double credit week. So anybody that launches out this weekend counts as a 2K credit towards your Charleston trip. So, let's make sure we're stacking this bad boy with some great quality interviews so that we can have a bunch of you guys hanging with us down at the beach here in end of October. So thank you guys for being on. Sorry again about this damn Google Hangouts video. But other than that, guys, I appreciate your time. See ya.